Justin Blackmon said his mindset changed from last year to this year. When did you start kind of noticing that change in him?
He practiced well in the spring, and the majority of his practices in the preseason camp were good. And he kind of falls into that category of when he's realized that he's going to be more of a factor in the games than he was last year. That he's picked it up a little bit. You'd like for him to perform and practice that way all the time, but sometimes human nature is to prepare more when you know that you're going to be a bigger factor. And he had a good game. He made some plays for us, and he's got a ways to go. But one of the things I was pleased with Justin, and not only him but all the receivers, was how well they blocked down the field. And in the last 4 or 5 years here, when we've been able to rush the football, one of the main reasons is because our wide receivers gave great effort blocking down the field, and that was that held to be true in the last game. So I was pleased with that. Even though we've changed style of offenses a little bit, they blocked really well down the field, including Justin.
Could you share a little bit what the game was like for you, not calling plays?
Well, it was difficult because at times I wanted to call a play. I obviously paid more attention to special teams and listened to defense more so than I had in the past. And I'll just have to get adjusted to that. The real adjustment for me comes during the week. Thursday night and Friday night, I'm used to working late at nights, doing game plans and trying to make sure all that is in line before the game on Saturday, and I don't really have to do that anymore. So those adjustments I'm trying to make now. But I was able to enjoy more of the game because I had the opportunity to watch defense play. I usually didn't see but maybe 20, 25 plays of a defense.
Mike, what's the difference now versus a year ago with Rashedi Jones?
I think he's grown up some. He's toughened up. Rashedi had a very traumatic injury that took him a year and a half, 2 years to get over, in my opinion. Then he had to get back into playing shape. He's done a good job in the weight room. Coach Glass has changed his body, and he's running to the football. He ran to the football the other night more so than he had in the past, and he should be a good player for us. He's got the skills. He's got enough quick twitch. He's big enough now that he needs to make plays. He did the other night. He made a really good play on the fake field goal. Took a good angle and pushed the guy out of bounds, and if it wasn't for him, he's going to get another 8 or 10 yards. So it's time for him to step up and make some plays.
When Dez started coming into his own, he got a lot of comparison to Hartley. Now that Hunter did what he did this last Saturday, I'm hearing stuff about comparing with Barry Sanders. Is it a fair comparison? Probably not with the style of running, but maybe production?
He's been productive, but I just have a hard time comparing people to him. And Kendall's a good player, but I just have a hard time comparing players to Barry. If he doesn't pick up the tab on one of those suites, we might start comparing him to him.
Do you think he'll be able? He's chasing another one of your teammates, Thurman Thomas, for the all-time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has to have a really special season to do it with this style of offense. Do you think he can carry the ball enough times to reach him?
Well, I'm not sure, just based on how people play us. You'd have to ask Coach Holgerson about that, but what we do now is really no different than what we did the last few years here in run pass. It's going to be based on how people play us. To a certain extent, they're going to be able to dictate what we do. Hopefully, we're good enough in both areas that we can be successful. We played with more tight ends the last few years, so we could just line up and play smash mouth more so than we can now. But if you asked Kendall, I'm not sure he would even know that he's involved in that chase for those records, which is a good thing.
A lot of guys caught balls, as you told us what happened in this offense. Are you pleased with the offer you got from the receiver, especially with the concern you had going into the game?
Well, we still have some guys that need some work, and guys that have to play at a higher level. I think we had 3 drops. We have to minimize our drops in this offense. That's one thing I know from watching this practice for 40 days, that we have to minimize our drops in order to be successful, and we work at it a lot. They get extensive work on catching the football, and we had some guys show up that hadn't done anything in the last couple of years here, and we need more receivers. We'll try to gather more receivers and guys that can roll in and play in this system in order to play at a fast pace.
Would you anticipate Jamie playing from now on?
We're taking that under consideration. his legal issues are over now. All that's been determined, and I've been observing him and taking into consideration how I think that he's handled the situation personally, and we're going to give him more reps this week, and make that decision on Friday. But at some point, I would like to put it to rest, just like with Victor. It's dangled out there for a long time, and the old fair and speedy trial theory. It's time to put it to rest, and he's gotten his punishment, however many games he sits out, and what he got internally within our program, and he needs to move forward, and we need to move forward, and everybody needs to give him a chance to move forward. So we're going to make that determination on Friday.
Mike, have you watched tape of Troy, Bowling Green?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much been through that.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on how they played in their first ball game?
Very similar to the way they played in the past. They changed coordinators, but offensively they're doing the same things. Their quarterback is, they're running the zone. He's keeping it, and they're throwing the ball vertically and then throwing the ball quick. They've got number 3 who they put him in different positions. Plays wide receiver, plays a wildcat. They want to get him the football. Running back is 4. And 20, those guys are good players, good skill players. And then defensively, they're playing very similar to the way they have in the past. They're zone pressuring a lot and mixing in some 2 and some quarters and some 3. They had a backer, I think it's 25, had about 14 tackles in the game, and he showed up a lot. And then they had a safety number, I think it's 22. One of the 2 is 22, one's 25. It showed up, made a lot of plays. And then the defensive lineman that's in there from Butler was a force in the first game for him, made some good plays. So they're very similar to what they've been in the past. They've got good skill players and guys that run to the football, and I think they're well coached. I think their system's in place, and they're very similar to what they've done.
Mike, how would they compare, just say their first unit offense and defense, talent-wise and athletically, to what you see in the Big 12?
Well, they're very similar to most of the teams. If you just, I would caution to ever say that teams could just jump up there with the top 2 or 3 teams across the country, the BCS schools in the league athletically, but the middle of the pack in most leagues in the country, they would be right there with everybody.
The benefit of playing so many guys the other night, Mike, does it kind of remove the shock and awe if you got to grab one of those guys and plug them in down the road?
Hopefully. That's why we're playing young players, because we think that as the season progresses, we're going to need depth, and so we want them to play now. Beyond the 2 deep, some of those other guys that got to play, it's really exciting to see them. Everybody we had 125 guys on our team, and a lot of them don't get to practice a lot. They're a demonstration squad, but their moms and dads come to the game. They get to play. That's awesome. But for the young players, we'd like to get them 150, 200 snaps before we actually needed them to play in a crucial situation.
Coach, you have a young team. How do you keep them from being too overconfident heading into week 2?
Our coaches do a good job of that. If you're at practice or you see us, they chew on them pretty good and hold them accountable. And I try to do a good job of that. They watch tape and they see people that can play the game, and you just watch the scores across the country. As soon as you think you're pretty good, you'll get beat the next week. With the offenses nowadays and their ability to move the ball, the forward pass, and guys that can make plays in space, blitzing style defenses, there's really not many gimmies out there. So I think it kind of takes care of itself. Good? All right. Thanks.